in the NBA and take a look at the most bet player props in terms of tickets for Warriors-Lakers Game 5 according to BetMGM. We've got Anthony Davis to go over 24.5 points, Stephen Curry to go over 30.5 points, and Curry again to go over 6.5 assists. Joining us now and making his Green Dot Daily debut is the better known as Prop Bomb. He's gone 12-1 in his last 13 player props, so on a nice roll. Welcome to the show. What's the prop you like tonight and why?
All right. Thanks for having me, Maria. So I really wanted to come on the show with a Miami Heat player prop. You can see in the background over there. That's my team. But I think I have value over here with the Golden State Warriors Lakers game. I'm going to be going with Steph Curry to get over 6.5 assists. The main concept here is I think how the game is going to start and end is how it's always been, and that's with the ball in Steph Curry's hands. While we all know Steph Curry as a prolific scorer, one who's able to get the ball in the hoop, his full success comes when he acts as a playmaker and he gets his other teammates involved in scoring opportunities. In Game 4 against the Lakers, it was unique because Kerr ran out Gary Payton II, and Steph Curry finished the game with 14 assists on 19 potential. And I want to go back on Gary Payton here. Having a guy like him on the court rather than a guy like Jordan Poole means that the ball is going to be more in Curry's hands, and Gary Payton Jr. is more going to be a screen setter, getting a guy like Anthony Davis on the Los Angeles Lakers off the paint, getting him more away, so that way there's higher conversion chances. So going back to Steph Curry here, he had a 36% usage rate last game, which is his fourth highest on the season, and that's just a great sign showing that the ball is going to be in his hands. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities here for Gary Payton to get involved. I think Klay Thompson has not had a great game in a while. He needs to get involved if the Warriors want a chance to win. And the Lakers' aggressive defense is going to want the ball out of Curry's hands. So, I mean, he got 19 potential assists last game. If he converts on half of that, that's 8. The prop here is 6.5. I like my chances here.
I totally agree with you. And I think Steph Curry is underrated as a playmaker. Like you said, we think of him as a scorer. And to your point, Klay Thompson needs to get going. So if Steph is going to get double teamed, he's got to pass the ball somewhere. And Klay would definitely be a great recipient. Now, do you have an alternative play to this as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I really thought that as the day goes on, it's going to get more juicier, the odds. So I'm fine with if you want to take it an assist lower at 5.5 assists. I think that's great. And look, the Warriors here are -7. They're desperate to get a win. They're on the brink of an elimination. They're at home. It would just be crazy if they ended the series in 5 games. So I'm gonna attack if you want to take an alternative line of Steph Curry to have over 5 assists and then tackle on the Warriors money line. I'm fine with that too if you want to get safe there.
Very good idea. I agree with you. I'd be shocked if this
Yeah.
season, the series, ends tonight. So that is a great option. Prop Bomb, I hope the hot streak continues. It's great to have you on the show. I'm sure we'll have you back again.
I'm looking forward to it, and let's get this W tonight.
Let's get it. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. To the NHL, these are the 2 Game 4s on tap tonight. Panthers lead the series 3-0, and as you can see, 91% of money is coming in on the Florida side. Meanwhile, 81% of bets and 75% of the handle is coming in on the Oilers money line. As we say hello to our hockey analyst, Michael Leboff. So the Leafs are favored on the road to avoid the sweep. How do you approach this game?
Yeah, there's a lot that you need to kind of consider off the ice here. It kind of reminds me a bit about how that Devils Rangers game 7 we spoke about would be handicapped, right? Like you can make a very strong argument for both sides in this game. and a lot of it has to do with off the ice stuff. Like there's a ton of pressure on Toronto in this spot. They win their first playoff series in 19 years. The city's celebrating, and they have all this goodwill building up with their fan base and the media, and they've just completely capitulated and handed all that back. So now they have a ton of work to do just to earn back some respect from their own fans. And so that pressure, it's a real thing, especially in the NHL playoffs. And they're going up against a team in Florida that's got a ton of swagger. But if you do like Toronto as a slight road favorite, I would kind of just forego the -115 and get a little kooky. Maybe go play them 7-1 to win the series, or beyond that, 25-1 to win the Stanley Cup. Though, because if you like them to win game 4 and put some pressure on Florida, those numbers will start coming down if they can make a series out of it. And if they do something crazy, you'll like holding that 25-1 ticket on them. But there is a bet I do like in this game. It's a long shot, but it's an anytime goal scorer parlay, a same game parlay. William Nylander has, I think, been Toronto's best forward in this series. I think you could actually make the argument he's maybe been the best forward for both teams consistently from whistle to whistle in this round, and he just hasn't scored yet. He's hit some posts. He's been robbed by Sergei Bobrovsky. You'd think that at some point he'll get on the score sheet. So I like him to be the anchor here of this 3-leg parlay. The other two guys are in Florida that I'm targeting: Sam Bennett and Nick Cousins. They play alongside Matthew Tkachuk. It's been an incredibly effective line for Florida throughout the entire playoffs. Bennett and Cousins already have goals in the series. Bennett is very good at just getting to the dirty areas around the net and causing trouble in that area. So the three of them put together is 80-1. It's in all likelihood not gonna hit, but they should have a lot of playing time in good spots. Playing on a line with Matthew Tkachuk is always a good thing. Cousins is the big long shot here if you want to find a different one to juice up the price. We gave out Gustav Forsling on the show ahead of game 2, and he cashed at 6-1. Go back to him, or Morgan Riley if you want to use one from the Leafs. So these are my 3, but once again, I think that this matchup really should play into these lottery ticket same game parlays, because there should be a ton of scoring with the way these games have played out.
Well, as you mentioned, sometimes you got to get a little kooky. I think that's the word that you said, especially in a tricky game to handicap such as this. But moving over to the nightcap, the Oilers will try to even the series with the Knights. Any play you recommend there?
This is another interesting one from a market perspective. It seems like every time the Oilers win a game, it's a statement win. It's another step on the way to their inevitable Stanley Cup. And frankly, like, I don't disagree with that entirely. I think that Edmonton, to me, is still the team that I would circle if you gave me flat odds on every team. Even down 2-1 in the series, I would probably pick to win. They just can get on a roll like that, and the next thing we know, we could be just talking about them as the Stanley Cup champion. But that seeps into the betting market. And conversely, after they lose, everyone just automatically expects them just to bounce back. So you're never going to get a discount on this team in the playoffs, and that's showing right now. They're coming off a really poor performance in Game 3. Maybe their worst of the playoffs. Maybe their worst since the trade deadline. They got their show run by Vegas, and you got to give the Knights credit. And I think on a game-to-game basis, like, Vegas is continuing to be disrespected. This is the team that won the same division that the Oilers play in. They finished ahead of Edmonton in the standings overall. They're very good 5-on-5, and they won that division despite dealing with a boatload of injuries, including to Mark Stone, who is one of the most important players, I think, in the NHL in terms of his two-way impact. And he's healthy and playing really well, does a great job defensively, and that's huge against a team that has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So I think that just on a game-to-game basis, Vegas is going to be underrated. So I would lean that way. I think plus 150 is maybe a little short. If it gets back towards 160, I would play Vegas. And if you're looking to square out and just back the Oilers because they're a fun team to watch and a fun team to have action on, once again, just squaring out and going with the Connor McDavid to score 2+ goals, I think is always fine. I think you can do the same with Leon Draisaitl. They're usually hanging around 6-1. If you want to throw those in some same game parlays as well, like, go right ahead. But that's how I would approach this one, because like I said, that the market is still infatuated with this Oilers team, despite a really poor effort and some really inconsistent goaltending. I would not lay minus 180 with the way these goalies have looked for Edmonton so far.
So for you, it's Knights or nothing, being that the Oilers are just overpriced at this time. Michael Leboff, thanks so much for the insight. We always love having you come on.
No problem. Good luck.
To baseball, and check out the odds for these teams to miss the playoffs. Each a stark contrast from their preseason odds. Cardinals are dead last in the NL Central with a 13-24 record. The Mariners, Phillies, and Mets are all middle of the pack in their respective divisions with records hovering around 500. As we welcome in MLB analyst Sean Zerillo. Sean, good to see you. Which of these teams that have so far not met expectations would you bet to go ahead and miss the playoffs?
Yeah, I'm taking a look at my Mets to miss the playoffs. Don't like the way that their pitching is trending just in terms of health. Max Scherzer potentially going on the IL. Justin Verlander, giving his age and injury history, likely to end up there again at some point this season. They were plus 375 as we saw to miss the playoffs at the start of the year, has basically halved since that time. That is a 14% move in terms of implied probability to miss the playoffs. Just looking at the publicly available projections, Fangraphs and Bakota, how they've moved relative to the start of the season. Fangraphs had them at 58%, currently Bakota at 88%, so a big gap between them. But Fangraphs has moved down 19%, Bakota has moved down 9%. So that betting market sort of splits the difference in terms of how those two public available projections have moved. And frankly, the betting market very often aligns with the average of those two projections. But just in terms of how the Mets schedule sets up for the foreseeable future through the rest of this week and next Monday, bunch of games against the Reds and the Nationals, two bottom feeders in the National League, then things get much more difficult for the Mets over the next 6 weeks through the end of June. They play all of the AL playoff teams from last year, except for the Mariners, the Rays, the Guardians, the Blue Jays, the Yankees, and the Astros. They play their top two divisional rivals, the Braves and the Phillies, and they play the entire NL Central aside from the Reds. And other than the Cardinals, who have basically had to downgrade, I've upgraded those three other NL Central teams. So it doesn't get much easier for the Mets in the foreseeable future. Don't like the way that their pitching is trending. I'm probably going to wait, though, till next Monday or Tuesday in order to bet them to miss the playoffs. Hopefully they rack up a few wins here, get that line back over plus 200, and then we bet them to miss.
Good strategy there. And last season, of course, was the first time the Mets made the playoffs since 2016. So could be in danger of another drought coming here. But as we move on to tonight's slate, what picks do you have for us?
Yeah, so looking at the 4 p.m. games, the 4 p.m. slate, the Angels and the Astros, I like the over 9.5 up to about minus 110. Projected this total just a hair over 10 runs. Now, good hitting weather in Anaheim today, 71 degrees at first pitch, 10-mile-an-hour winds blowing out to left center field. And Angel Stadium, typically a park that plays decently well for hitters, about 5% above the league average run environment on a typical day. And with the hitting weather today, maybe boosted even further. So as long as you get that wind blowing out in Anaheim, can actually be pretty beneficial for hitters and may get a couple of home runs there today that you wouldn't expect. But with these two teams in particular, something you always need to keep an eye on, not a worry for today because we know the confirmed lineups, but typically day game after night game, especially a day game where Shohei Ohtani pitched and was in the lineup last night. The Angels were playing the Athletics here, or a lesser team. I would have expected Ohtani to potentially be out of the lineup, but he is confirmed in today. The only regular that we're missing on either side is Jose Abreu. Same goes for Yordan Alvarez and the Astros as well, playing with that injured wrist. They might look to sit him if they were playing a lesser opponent, but this is a key divisional game. So everybody aside from Jose Abreu, who's struggling this year in these lineups, comfortable betting the over given that information. But just want to point out, look at those day game after night games, especially where Ohtani pitched the night before. If they're playing a lesser team, very likely to be out, and you may get an advantage betting against them early.
Always good to know, and could be a slugfest over there with the Astros and Angels. What else do you have for tonight?
Yeah, my largest projected edge either sides or totals for tonight's slate is the Kansas City Royals. Don't love betting on this Royals team. And anything good I could say about the Royals in this matchup, I could also give an advantage to the White Sox to an equivalent degree. Lance Lynn struggling this season, expected ERA north of 5. Brad Keller has more walks than strikeouts in each of his past 4 starts, which normally would concern me in terms of an underlying injury. I don't actually think that that is the case. He's just struggling to find a pitch mix that works for him. Keller went out to Driveline Baseball this offseason, completely revamped his arsenal, got rid of his four-seam fastball, started throwing a cutter, swapped his slider to a sweeper, added a curveball to the mix. But if you look at his pitch usage throughout the season, particularly over this stretch where he's struggling, he seems like a guy who's panicking a little bit and just trying to find something that works. That curveball usage going down, changeup usage going back up. In the aggregate over the course of the season, I actually like the quality of the pitches that Keller added to his mix, but he doesn't seem to have a feel for how to throw them yet or how to optimize their usage. So I expect him to find something that's working at some point. You kind of have to lean into the variance and potentially look for it to happen before it does. So don't like the way he's trending at all. Both teams struggle against the right-handed pitching split that they're going to see tonight. But given where I have the lines projected, the Royals closer to about plus 105 for the first 5 innings, even money for the full game. Like them down to about plus 115, plus 108 in either half. And we're going to hope the Royals can cash against the team I was lowest on coming into the season, the Chicago White Sox.
Yes, hopefully they can take advantage of this matchup. Sean Zerillo, thanks for joining Green Dot Daily.
Thank you for having me, Maria.
In golf, the AT&T Byron Nelson gets underway Thursday. Scotty Scheffler is the odds leader in the clubhouse at plus 350. K.H. Lee, who's looking for the three-peat at this event, is further down the list at plus 2,200. Our Jason Sobel has some picks ahead of the tournament.
This week's AT&T Byron Nelson is in another case of a PGA Tour event where there's that guy and then there's all the other guys. In this instance, that guy happens to be Scotty Scheffler, who's now priced at sub 4-1 numbers after Jordan Spieth, who was number 2 on the odds board, withdrew earlier this week. I am not only fading Scheffler this week, the number 2 player in the world, I am fading the entire top of the board. I'm going to start my card instead with Seamus Power, who has top 20 finishes at TPC Craig Ranch, this week's host venue, each of the last 2 years. He was also 18th place last week at the Wells Fargo Championship. I like the number on Power, and I think not playing a player near the top of the board allows us to maybe play a few other long shots, and long shots have a history of cashing outright tickets here at the Byron Nelson. A couple of other names I'll have on that list: Michael Kim, who's played some really nice golf recently, Eric Cole, who almost won the Honda Classic earlier this year, and Jimmy Walker with 4 consecutive top 25 finishes. I also like those players for prop bets, top 10s, top 20s, but the one name I'll give you for a top 10 right now is that of Scott Stallings. Earlier this year, Scott Stallings was on my SiriusXM PGA Tour radio show, Hitting the Green, and we're talking about analytics, and Scott has used analytics throughout the last couple of years to not only figure out what parts of his game need work, but he's figured out his schedule based on this too. He said, looking at the numbers, he thought he should put the AT&T Byron Nelson back on his schedule. He did it a few years ago, finished in 3rd place 2 years ago, 25th place last year, trending in the right direction, especially on a golf course where you've got to go low, and he knows how to make a whole lot of birdies at TPC Craig Ranch. Then I'm going to give you a matchup as well. One of the best putters on the PGA Tour happens to be a rookie, Taylor Montgomery. Taylor Montgomery is 3rd in strokes gained putting this year, started out red hot, top 15 finishes in 8 of his first 9 starts this season. Hasn't replicated that in his last 10 starts, but better things are coming for him. I know Steven Yeager has been playing well, but the putter has been ice cold for him. I'll take the hot putter instead. Give me Taylor Montgomery in a matchup at plus money over Steven Yeager this week.
You can hear more from Jason Sobel on the Gimme today at 5:30 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube and Twitter pages. Remember, any picks we give out here on the show you can easily reference by following Green Dot Daily in the Action app. We keep track so you don't have to. Green Dot Daily is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,000 paid back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Terms and conditions apply. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Thanks for watching Green Dot Daily. I'm Maria Marino. I'll be taking a day off from the show tomorrow, but don't worry, Tim Kalinowski will have you covered. Then I'll see you again Friday at 3 Eastern on the Action Network YouTube and the Action app.